So hello, Java challengers. I'm here again talking about the 6 pillars that separate average Java developers from the highest paid elite in the market. So just to let you know, I'm going to be start doing this live session every Tuesday at 10 p.m. London time. So every week I'm going to be here. I will show up and I will share tips and experience on how you can improve, on how you can earn more as a Java developer, and also work on the best projects where you don't have any stress. So just to let you know, I tested those pillars many times with mentees of mine, and I go through clarity, tech mastery, booster LinkedIn profile, negotiation, communication, and I also talk about how you can share your knowledge. So most of them had amazing results. They doubled their salaries, tripled their salaries. So I will show you that those pillars really work. Okay. So if you have any questions, just send a message on the chat and I'll try to answer you as soon as possible. Okay. So can you hear me perfectly? Just let me know. Hello, Sagar. Hello, Pradeep. Okay, all good. Very good. So let's continue. So I always thought that technical knowledge, technical skills were everything I needed to grow in my career, but I was wrong. Because I remember many years ago, I was an intermediate developer, and every day when I was back home, I was studying only technical subjects. And I was focusing only on that. And then I noticed that the other developers that were joining after me in this company, they were having the double, the triple, or the quadruple of my salary. So it was ridiculous, the difference. And then I started noticing that it's not only technical knowledge that will take me to the next level. And then I started going to conferences, I started reading books, and I learned I had to go beyond the technical, right? So I know that, I made this mistake myself. I know that many other developers also make this mistake, thinking that it's only the technical thing that will take you to the next level, but it's actually not, because I've been through this already. I'm not saying that technical knowledge is not important. It's crucial. We need to know technical stuff. We need to know about the best practices. We need to create good code. We need to create maintainable code and performant code, but it's not everything, right? There are other crucial skills. We need to be aware of them. So those are the pillars I'm going to be showing you. And the first one is about having clarity. So why clarity is important? It's because if you don't know where you're going, anywhere will take you to this place, right? So with no clarity, you have no idea what are your next career steps. Therefore, you take random actions in your career. So sometimes you're going to study something, like maybe today you're going to study something, then tomorrow you're going to study something else. And that won't help you. You need to have focus so that you know what you do, right? You also need to write down your next career steps. And I know this might seem to be cliche, but it's really important to know what your next steps, because if you don't know, like, you're going to be studying technologies that don't make any sense. And with AI nowadays, it's even easier to do that, right? Because there are so many AI technologies that, you go through LLM, you go through all of those AI concepts, and then you see that in the interview, it won't help you much. So It's important to know what's the game you're playing, and then you play it in the right way. Otherwise, you're going to play a random game and you lose. And all those things seem to be obvious, but those are things that are simple to understand, but it's difficult to do. Because nowadays we are bombarded with so many technologies, with so much information, and it's difficult to decide what we will do. Because there are so many possibilities, so many technologies, so many things, right? We are receiving messages all the time in our phones, and then we get distracted and we procrastinate. We do nothing, right? So it's very easy to be in that place. I've been there already. Sometimes it's easy. You start studying something, or you go through the tutorial hell and you watch one video after the other and you get lost, and then you see, oh my God, I did nothing, and then you lose confidence. So it's not a good position to be in. So you need to decide what technologies you need to study, you need to work on. So how can you decide that when you do an interview, for example? So when you're doing the interviews, you're gonna know, okay, those are the subjects I need to study. And the other thing is to apply the SMART framework, because I see so many people setting their goals in the wrong way, and setting goals is kind of a skill, so it takes some time to build it up. But let's study this SMART framework. So what is the SMART framework? So it's basically a framework where you can make your goal more tangible, more doable. So let's see this one. So on this framework, we have the S, which stands for specific. So let's see one example that doesn't work. So this is too vague. I want to get fit. What does that mean, to get fit? If you don't know what this means, so this doesn't work. It doesn't get you motivated. It's not specific. But a good example is, I will run 3 times a week for 30 minutes to improve my stamina. So this is a more specific and more tangible goal. So this makes sense. This other one, I want to get fit, doesn't make any sense. In the same way, if you say, oh, I want to get better with Java, what does that mean exactly? I don't think it means much. And guys, if you can turn on your camera, that would be great, so I can see you. That's why I choose to make this live here on Zoom, because then I can see you, I can interact with you a little bit more. Okay. Nice. Hello, Ronaldo. Thanks for turning on the camera. Pedro. Okay, good to see you guys. Very good, very good. Awesome. Who else? Okay, let's continue. So M stands for measurable. So this goal here is vague. For example, I want to save money. It doesn't mean anything. So when we say measurable, we have to make something that we can measure, obviously. So for example, we can say here, I will save $500 per month for the next 6 months. This is tangible. This is very easy and clear to understand. Like, it's a binary question, right? It's yes or no. So I will save $500 per month. It's clear and it works. And we can measure as well, right? Like if you say, I want to save money, how can you measure that if you don't have a specific amount of money? It's impossible. So A stands for achievable. So let's see one example that doesn't work. It could be, for example, that I will run a marathon next week without training. That's impossible. Whereas if we say here, an achievable goal is I will complete 5K race 5 kilometers race in 2 months, starting with a beginner's running plan. That's totally possible, right? Or for example, if you want to improve your English, make a plan. Like have, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 classes a week with a private teacher, and you're going to see how much you're going to improve. Or if you want to improve with design patterns, you could say, hey, this week I'm going to learn the strategy pattern. The other week, you're going to learn the builder pattern. And then you could, for example, write an article a week. So, and obviously it depends on what you need to study. For example, if you're starting a new job and you know that technologies are going to use there, you don't know very much, a good idea could be to break down the major concepts of this technology, and then you study, you create your POCs, and you create your personal project so that you can practice those skills. Okay, and R stands for relevant. So what does that mean? So an irrelevant goal would be, I will learn to play the violin just because my friends are doing it. It's not irrelevant, right? You're just doing it because your friends are doing that. Doesn't make any sense. But something relevant could be here, for example, I will learn to play violin, or we could put that in the context of Java as well. We could say, I will learn how to create a microservice with Java because I always wanted to provide for my family, for example. Because if you do that, you're going to have more chances of getting a job. So, but anyway, it could be play a violin as well, anything. You can use this framework for any goal you want to achieve in your life. So time bound, what does that mean? So open-ended. When we have a goal that we don't put a deadline, we usually procrastinate. So when we create a goal that's it's open-ended, for example, I will write a book. If you don't put a deadline or in how long you're gonna finish this book, it's gonna be difficult to even start. Because if there's no deadline, if it's not time bounded, it's very likely that you won't even start. Whereas if you create a time bounded objective, you could say, I will write the first draft of my book within 6 months by writing 500 words daily. This is achievable. This is possible. So every time you write your goals, make an effort to create something that's real and tangible. And this is also useful when you're going to negotiate promotion with your manager. So if your manager gives you a very vague goal, you have to help him or her to do their work. How can you do that? Help your manager create more tangible goals. Otherwise, if your manager say, oh, you have to improve communication. What is that? Doesn't make any sense. You have to say, hey, my friend, explain to me what is to improve my communication. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to give talks? Do you want me to explain a business requirement better? What do you want me to do so that we can measure this thing in a clear way? So you have to be careful to not allow, for example, if you're creating a promotion plan with your manager and your manager says something, oh, you have to get better with Java and get better with communication. This doesn't mean anything. So you have to say, hey, sometimes you have to do the work of your manager. You have to say, manager, let's create here more specific goals. What does that mean exactly? So that's important to keep in mind, because otherwise, if you go to the plan of improving communication, what is that? Improving Java, what is that? So be careful with that, because if you have a vague promotion plan, and there is no way that you can prove that you improved on those skills, then unfortunately your promotion won't arrive. So just to let you know, it's important that, but sometimes you're going to have to do the work of your manager, and don't expect your manager to help you grow in your career. It's you who is responsible for your career. I made this mistake for a long time as well. I always thought that, oh, if I do a good work, if I study technical stuff, if I deliver things with quality, my manager would promote me. This never happened. Never happened. So I was putting responsibility of my career growth on my manager, and he wasn't responsible for my career growth. I am. And the same thing for you. This is very important lesson that after I learned that I could grow exponentially in my career. So, okay, let's talk about tech mastery. So how can you improve your technical knowledge? So you have to find a sustainable way to stay on the top of the game. What do I mean by that? You have to fit your studies on your schedule. Because sometimes you have, obviously, like you guys, you have time with your family and you have your commitments. And sometimes it's difficult to work, for example, in the evening, because in the evening, your energy is almost zero. And chances of procrastinating in the evening are very high. So that's why I recommend you all to pay yourself first. What do I mean by that? Do the important things for your career in the morning before your job, because afterwards you basically use all of your mental energy and then you can't do anything. So that's why it's important to pay yourself first. To pay yourself first, you study the things that are meaningful for your job or career, and you keep on the consistency. Because I know nowadays it's very easy to have the imposter syndrome because there are so many things, but one way to help you, I wouldn't say overcome, because we will never overcome imposter syndrome, right? But we can handle it. How can we handle it? We can handle imposter syndrome by being consistent on the things that we are not confident, right? So another great way to improve our technical skills is to go to conferences. Why going to conferences are important? Because you're going to meet many developers who are very good, and they're going to give you another view of the tech world. So, for example, sometimes you might think that, oh, but Kubernetes is very difficult. But then sometimes in a quick conversation with a developer, you notice that Kubernetes is not that difficult, or any other technology. I'm just giving Kubernetes as an example. And for example, in the beginning of my career, I thought that annotation was very hard, but it's not actually. It's just metadata, right? So, and you notice those things after talking to more experienced developers. You notice that, those tools are not difficult, right? So, and when you go to conferences, another thing that's very important is that you see so many talks, and then you see a tool that you're going to use in the company you're working for, and then you can study more of this technology, right? So, and as a senior developer or even as an intermediate developer, it's important to have this initiative. For example, if you go to a conference and you see something useful for your project, prepare a presentation, explain to everyone that this technology will solve a specific problem. And when you do that, you position yourself differently in the company. You become more valuable. And, the ability of influence other developers, it's very important. And you can't push things on developers. So it's a lot more powerful to influence developers with good reasons, right? For example, if you see that implementing, let's suppose that the project they don't use end-to-end test. I know it's a big mistake, but anyway, just let's use that as an example, and then you see a very cool technology in the conference that will do this end-to-end test for your microservice. So it's a great opportunity for you to set a meeting and explain that to everyone. You can create a meeting with, with everyone in your team. In person is even better if that's possible. If you have to do it online, do it online. It doesn't really matter. What really matters is that you take the initiative and you show the value of using this technology. And you can't just explain a technology just because you like it, right? You have to explain technology because it solves a problem in your project. The worst thing you can do is to say, let's use technology because it's cool, because I like it. It's the worst thing you can do, and it's not a senior developer position, right? It's not an attitude of a senior Java developer. The attitude of a senior Java developer is to prepare a meeting, talk about the pros and cons, and show that this tool will solve the specific problem of the company. So if you are able to do that, you become a lot more valuable as a developer. And it's not about pushing things and saying, hey, we're going to use that and that's it. That doesn't give you real respect. What will give you real respect is the influence you can have over your team. And it's service, right? It's not about ego. It's like you're providing a service, something that will improve the project, and people will see the value you're bringing to the table. And that could be something you could negotiate with your manager. You could say, hey, manager, look, I helped to solve this problem, and now the whole team is using the tool I recommended that I learned by going to this conference, and now we are saving so much time by doing that. We are, 20% more productive now. So what about the promotion we were discussing? So it's easier to negotiate a promotion, you see? So it's important to bring to the table things that are tangible when you're negotiating a promotion with your manager. And this is even useful for your CV, for your LinkedIn profile, because you could put on a LinkedIn profile that you influenced your team to use this technology, and this technology is saving, it's making the developers 20% more productive. So now you're delivering features faster. You don't need to waste your time anymore. Now you are more productive. So you can put those numbers on your LinkedIn profile, and this will also help you on your negotiation with your manager. And also be careful to watch too many videos on the internet. This is the famous tutorial hell. And this is an issue that I see many developers going through. Like, many developers watch so many videos, but they don't really build any skill because they're not writing the code. They're not creating their own project. So be careful to watch too many videos because that won't help you to improve, right? And nowadays it's so easy because you go to YouTube and you can find any course you can imagine for free. So really, I know that for every developer, like, it's not technical skills who are stopping you to grow in your career, right? It's mostly what stops developers, senior developers, intermediate Java developers to grow in their careers is lack of focus. It's sometimes, lack of direction. There is the imposter syndrome, lack of confidence. There are many issues that we face on our day-to-day job or day-to-day basis. And sometimes what we do, we watch too many videos, but then we don't put anything in practice. And that's a big mistake because when you're doing that, well, on top of watching videos that don't make any sense for your career, it could be that you're watching, you could be watching a video that makes sense for a career, but you're not practicing it. And then what happens? It's, well, you learn a little bit. It's not totally wasted time. But the thing is that you don't build real skills, right? So what can you do instead? A good idea is to create a personal project, or, even contribute to open source projects that will help you on your CV. And also developing the skill of sharing your knowledge is very important, right? So, and you don't need to share your knowledge to everyone. Of course, if you share your knowledge to everyone, that's even better. But you as a senior or intermediate Java developer, you can help a less experienced developer as well. Because by doing that, you're going to fill out the knowledge gaps you think you don't have. And sometimes, a junior developer and then you notice that you don't know very well how to explain this basic concept. And that's okay. Because when the less experienced developer asks you something and you don't know, you're going to learn. You're going to search for this concept. You're going to do the research. And you're going to explain to the junior developer. And that will help you to fill out the gaps of your knowledge. And it will also help you on your communication skills, because when you're explaining things, you can't explain in a very complicated way. And there is a quote from Einstein. I don't remember exactly how it is this quote, but basically he says that if you can't explain a concept in simple words, it's because you don't know it. So every time you're explaining something to a junior developer or to a less experienced developer, or even to someone of your level, it doesn't matter, it's important that you try your best to explain this concept in the most simple way as possible. Because if you do that, it means that you really understand the concept. If you explain the concept with a huge, complicated thing that doesn't make any sense, it means that, unfortunately, you don't know this concept. So maybe you need to do more research and just try to explain any concept like you're explaining to a kid. That will vastly help you to improve your communication skills. And obviously, so that's why I'm saying that when you share your knowledge, that's the ultimate way to learn anything. Why? It's because when you're explaining something, you need to fill out the gaps. So you can't simply just write anything. You have to do some research about the concepts, and you need to write it in details. So, for example, if you are shy on creating videos, why not writing articles, right? It's easier. You can practice your English. I don't know if you all here are English speakers or not, but if you're not, you can practice your English by writing articles. That will help you to fill out the gaps. You can also use the Feynman technique. So Richard Feynman was a Nobel Prize winning physicist who made significant contributions in quantum mechanics and particle physics. So he basically created a method to learn things more quickly. And step one for that is to write down the concepts you want to learn. So, for example, let's suppose you want to learn React. So what you can do, you can go to Amazon, choose a React book, see the chapters. I don't know, it must be like 12 chapters. I don't know. Depends on the technology. You write down the chapters. So, and then pick one chapter and try to explain this chapter to someone else, to a kid, and see if they can understand you. Or you don't need to even explain to a kid. You can just write an article saying, okay, I'm writing here this article about this first chapter of React or whatever, or Kubernetes, or a Java design pattern, whatever technology you want to learn. Writing articles is useful. And actually, this is a great way to share your knowledge. Because, as I said, sharing your knowledge is the ultimate way to learn anything. And I know there are many top references who write books to learn a concept. And I also did that. I wrote books to learn a specific concept. And this works because it forces you to learn, to fill out the gaps you need to learn. So if you need to learn a specific technique, why not writing articles or writing a book? That will help you to have this clarity, and it will also help you to gain authority. Because imagine if you're doing an interview with a company and they need someone who is a specialist in microservices or microservices performance, and you have a book that you wrote about performance. This will hugely help you in the interview, right? It doesn't mean that you need to exactly write a book, but having a blog helps a lot already. And you don't know, and you don't need to put a huge barrier in front of you because you have LinkedIn. In LinkedIn, there is a platform where you can write articles for free. You don't need to create a domain, then purchase a server, and then download WordPress and install WordPress. Obviously, if you do that, it's better. But I recommend you to not start in a difficult way. Start as easily as possible, because the most difficult thing is actually to create the content, right? To buy a host, to buy a domain. It sucks, but it's not the difficult thing. So, okay, so step 2, you teach and explain this concept in your own terms. You could use DevTools as well. There are lots of tools you can use for free where you don't need to create a barrier. And if you do that, and if you decide later to create your own blog, you can just copy the content and paste on your blog. So the most important thing is to get started as soon as possible. Why? Because if you have a blog, it's like having an ultra powerful portfolio. Why? Because if you wrote the thing, if you explained the concepts, and if you have, I don't know, a POC or whatever, you are proving that you know that thing. And sometimes, if you have your blog on your CV, sometimes the interviewer will make questions about your blog, and this will be the easiest interview you ever done in your life. Because if you are explaining the things that you already explained, it's going to be the easiest interview ever. So it's a good strategy. And step 3 is, if your explanation feels shaky, go back to the books, read again, and see if you really absorb the content. And step 4 is to rewrite in simple terms or use analogies. And using analogies is a very powerful way to explain any content. So you can research further about this Feynman technique, and also find a mentor. Why? Because like I said, if the problem nowadays was only technical skills, everyone would be on the top of their careers, right? Everyone. So, because nowadays you can find any course you can imagine on YouTube, and you can buy any course you can imagine on Udemy as well. So if the problem was technical skills, like there wouldn't be any developers struggling with their careers. So a mentor to guide you in your journey is a great way to grow faster. Otherwise, it's easy to do random things and procrastinate. Okay, so that's tech mastery. And how do you boost your LinkedIn profile? So obviously, it's impossible to go through those pillars very quickly here, but I'm just, giving you a grasp, just give you an idea. And then we can go more deeply into that in the other lives I will do every Tuesday at 10 p.m. London time. Okay. So if you don't share your knowledge, your only way to market yourself as a software developer will be either your LinkedIn profile or your CV. So this means that the only way that companies will find you is through your LinkedIn profile. So that's why your LinkedIn profile is very important that you do the work and you boost your LinkedIn profile. And I know many developers neglect LinkedIn. I used to do that as well. But then if you don't have anything to show your work, to show your skills, then the companies have no idea who you are or what are your skills. So you can't neglect your LinkedIn profile because nowadays it's the most popular way to get a job. And another mistake that I see a lot from developers is that they include skills that are not relevant for the market anymore. So sometimes I see like very old frameworks like struts or, even Ant that is basically dead. So all of those old technologies that nobody cares anymore, just remove them. Because really, if you see a company that still uses those technologies, I'm sure you don't want to work for them, right? So just remove those skills because they're irrelevant nowadays. So you have to create your CV pointing to the to what the market wants. So, and give a special focus on the about section of your LinkedIn profile. So include how many years of experience you have. And it also include your career highlights. What do I mean by that? So your career highlights are basically the things you achieved in your job that you can somehow describe it in a quantitative way. For example, it could be that you created a component in your job that improved productivity from developers by 10%. And this number doesn't need to be exact. It could be a number that you think it's fair to leave there. And then during the interview, it's important that you know how to tell the story. You know how to explain what's the goal of the component, how did you have the idea of creating the component, how this component helped developers to be more productive. This is an important thing. If you can do that, if you can add your career highlights, that will help you a lot. And also, well, it's not exactly, well, it is kind of connected to the LinkedIn and how to market yourself area. So when you go to conferences or when you go to a Java user group, it's important that you do networking with people, right? And I don't mean that all needs to be, that annoying person that only talks about themselves. Actually, when you go to a conference, it's much better to talk about the problems of the other person. Why? Because the more you talk about yourself, the less likely you are to make a friend. So it's much better that you talk about the problem of the other person. And I don't mean that you should be an interviewer. No, you should give always value when you're talking to the other person. And when you're talking to the other person, you should be genuinely interested in the other person's problem, right? So the worst thing you can do when you're networking is talk about okay, so negotiation. Let's talk about the negotiation. Negotiation is difficult. So you need to know how much you should be earning by researching the market. And that's difficult. There are some techniques you can apply to negotiate better. And for example, you can take a look at Glassdoor and just be careful because at Glassdoor, it usually, for the developers, usually puts 20% or 30% less of their real salary. So just keep in mind that this will happen. And another thing that you can use in your favor is to not make salary as a taboo. What do I mean by that? So when you have a developer friend and you want to know their salary, just ask them. Because when you do that, you might notice that either you are an underpaid developer, or you can notice that your salary is actually good. So don't make salary a taboo. And obviously, like if the person is not your close friend, like you don't ask directly the person, oh, what is your salary, office? You know, only if it's your close friend. If it's a friend that, if it's someone who you are not that close, then you can basically say, hey, I wonder what's the salary range from someone who have skills that are similar from what you have. Or you could say that you could just say, hey, I would like to know what's the salary range of a senior developer in that specific country. Then you could have an idea. And the person doesn't need to say exactly their salary to you. If it's a salary range, you're going to have an idea. Another ally you can use is to talk to recruiters. So talk with recruiters, and they know a lot about the market salary. So talk to them, make them an ally, because the more you earn, the more they earn, right? The more commission they will have in the end. So negotiation is a big topic. I'm just giving you a grasp of this concept. But it's very common that developers are underpaid. Why? Because they don't do the work of figuring out how much they should be earning, or they don't do the work on asking other developers what are their salaries. And if it's a close friend, just ask directly. You might get a no. Yeah, it could happen, but if you don't try, you already have the no. So it's okay, right? Just try it, because that will help you to negotiate. If you had information during negotiation, that changed the game. Why? Because the company has this information, right? Every company, they are very good in negotiation. And the problem is that if you don't have this information in your hands, you're going to probably lose the negotiation. So it's a lot better if you have an information about the salary, and because then you know how much you should ask. And communication. So why communication is important? Because without clear communication, you can't get much visibility at work. Unfortunately, this is true. So it doesn't matter if you're doing a lot of work, if you have high quality work, but if you can't explain what you've done during the stand-ups, during the daily meetings, someone else might get the credit from your work, which is worse, right? So they might get all the credit from the work you are doing, and you won't get anything. So without clear communication, it's a lot more difficult to grow in your career. And the more you grow, the more you're going to have to delegate work. So you're going to have to tell someone else to do the work, and you're going to have to supervise them. You're going to have to take a look at what they are doing. And also remember that code is communication, right? So writing a nice class name, writing a very good and specific method name, writing a good name for the microservice, all of those things count, because you're not coding for us. We are coding for other developers to read our code. So the more readable is our code, the better. So this is a very important skill for intermediate and senior Java developers. Because, we read code a lot more than we write code, even with microservices. So we're going to have to create new features, or we're going to have to fix bugs. And when we have readable code, you become a reference more quickly. Sometimes you can use a very nice design pattern to solve that problem, and you see that it's suitable. So when you write nice code, people realize, people notice, people say, hey, wow, that's amazing. And it's such a good compliment. I remember that, sometimes in my job, I was doing pair programming, and my coworker said, hey, Rafael, wow, your code looks so nice. And that's so good to hear, right? And by writing good code, we make our jobs less stressful as well. So it's very important that we focus on that. And to be a mentor for your coworkers, you need to have good communication skills. So if you want to mentor junior developers or intermediate developers, it's, I know that sometimes you won't have time to do that, but the more you do that, the more you improve your communication skills. You're going to be helping them to grow in their career more quickly. And you're going to be also improving your leadership skills and also your communication skills. So it's a good win-win situation. And when you explain something to someone else, you become a skill multiplier, which means that you're not just an individual contributor, you become someone who can multiply your knowledge and solve problems more effectively. And when you communicate clearly in the daily, so for example, what you've done, you will earn respect for sure. What you can't allow people to do with you is, for example, like, and this happened unfortunately in one of the previous companies I was working for. Like, people used to cut each other off. Like, this is a profound lack of respect. So imagine you are talking about something important and then someone else cuts you off all of a sudden. That's ridiculous, right? And we can't allow that. So when we are talking, we have to say, hey, I'm talking here, my friend. Wait your turn, right? So it's important to, like, I'm not saying that to be disrespectful and to be at the same level of a person who does that. What I'm telling you instead is that you should just position yourself in a way that people can't mess up with you, right? And if they mess up, doesn't mean that you're going to retaliate, but you're going to command respect. You're going to say, I'm talking here, my friend. And it's important that you do that. Otherwise, people will run over you. Unfortunately, there are people who don't play in the right way. They play dirty. So you have to be careful with those situations and protect yourself. And also the last pillar is to share your knowledge. And it's okay if you don't want to expose yourself. I know this is difficult for most developers. And this is not the thing that will prevent you to get the best jobs, but it will definitely help you. And if you don't want to share your knowledge publicly, it's okay to share knowledge with your coworkers. Because if you help your coworkers, you're going to make them better developers. And by making your coworkers better developers, you're going to deliver a better project. People will be more motivated and people will grow faster. And also, don't hold your knowledge, because it doesn't really. I know that this mindset of holding knowledge Like it's kind of an old mindset, right? Because people used to do that. Like they used to create very complicated code that only them could understand the code. And then this person could never leave the company. And that's actually not a good move because first, you're not helping your team. You won't also be respected if hold knowledge and if you create code that's not clear. So instead, share everything you have. It doesn't really matter because the more knowledge you share, the more people respect you, the more you become a reference. So if you have that secret, that thing that you want to keep for you, just give it away. Just say, hey, okay, this is the thing I know here, and I'm sharing with you. Because, everyone is replaceable in any company. And what makes you valuable in the company is actually how effectively you can deliver the products, how effectively you can solve the problems of that company. And, if you don't mind, if you want to go beyond your company, you can also share your knowledge through articles. You can create YouTube videos. You can give talks. And then you're going to stand out as a developer. So, and I know that is not for everyone. I know that many developers don't want to share their knowledge to everyone. And that's totally fine. Many of my mentees also they don't share their knowledge publicly, but still they had amazing growth, right? So just recap you what we discussed here. So we talked about clarity. So why clarity is important? It's because if we don't know where you're going, any place will get us there, which means that like if we don't know where you're going, we don't know what you study, we don't know what you do. So that's why it's important to write down what are your goals, where you want to be, so that you know exactly what to do. I know this seems to be obvious, but I know many developers don't do that. Tech mastery. So how can you learn technologies faster? You use the SMART framework. Just start planning something very simple. It doesn't need to be something very complicated. Just use the SMART framework. Make your goal specific, achievable, and measurable, because that will help you learn anything. And also, don't forget that you can't learn things passively. You have to do something. When you learn that topic, do something. You could write a project and put it on GitHub, or you could write an article, or you could create a video on YouTube. Anything you do with this content will help you to really absorb the skill. And boost your LinkedIn profile, because if you don't share knowledge, if you don't have anywhere that you can show your skills, then you need to work on your LinkedIn profile, because your LinkedIn profile is the way the companies and recruiters will reach out to you. And it doesn't really matter. You can learn everything in the world. You can be the most top developer in the world in technical stuff. But if you don't have a good way to show that you are good, if you don't have a good way to market your skills, it doesn't really matter. Oh, and by the way, I'm giving away this. I forgot to say that to you, but I'm giving away this mind map. I'll just ask you to fill out the form. So there is a form here that you can give a feedback. I know there will. We also talked about negotiation, why it's important, because if you don't know how to negotiate, the companies will dictate your salary. That's what usually happens. And communication. So code is communication, right? When we are coding, we are not coding for the computer. We are coding for the developers. And we are also communicating a lot when we are, for example, putting our code on GitHub and We are communicating when we are giving a talk. For example, I'm now giving a talk to you. I'm using my communication skills. And when you are in our daily meetings, you're also using communication skills. So the way you show yourself in this meeting is important, because that so the more clear you can explain concepts, the more people will stop to hear you, to listen to you, and the more respect you earn. With more respect, it's easier to negotiate a promotion with your manager. It doesn't, and when I say communication, I don't mean actually that you should be over communicating, because I've seen senior developers making this mistake. And when you over communicate, you lose respect. Why? Because it's always you who is talking, and people are tired to hear just that developer talking bullshit. So it's better to talk something useful, right? So you listen what the other developers are saying. And obviously there are many things here in the context, in the subject of communication. And I can talk a lot more about communication in other lives. Now, today, I just wanted to give you a grasp and a glance of those pillars, because those pillars are the pillars that will take you to another whole level in your career. It will make you exponentially grow in your career. Because as I told you, I tested this framework many, many times, and it works. It works. It works. So, and the other pillar is about share your knowledge. So if you don't want to share knowledge publicly, just share your knowledge to a friend of yours, because that will help you to improve your communication skills, and that will also help less experienced developers to grow fast in their careers. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And okay, guys, that's enough. So if you didn't have time to fill out the form, just, put the form on your browser and put it on your favorite. And then you can fill out, and then you can get the mind map as well. Okay, so let me fix that. You should have, let me see. So anyone with the link. Viewer. Okay, I'm gonna send you a direct message here. Okay, great. Perfect. Okay, guys, so that's it for today. I'm gonna post this video on YouTube. Obviously, this idiot won't be there. I'm gonna edit the video. And sorry about that. I need to actually reinforce security on my Zoom account. This won't happen again. And yeah, I'll take the necessary actions to avoid like idiots like that to invade our session. Okay. So thank you so much, guys, and I wish you a great week. And I'm gonna come back. Very good, Darlison. Very good. So I'm gonna be back on next Tuesday at 10 p.m. London time, and there are some guys here from Brazil, so it's 6 p.m. Brazil time. And I don't know where Mario is from. It could be a country from South America. Ben could be some country from Europe or the US. I don't know. Okay. Very good, Ben. Okay, from the US. Awesome. Yeah, so I just say London time because there are people from everywhere. And yeah, so Brazil. And because I live in Dublin, but I don't know if everyone knows Dublin, probably not. So, okay, I choose, okay, London is the next country, it's close uh, to Ireland. And then I just say, okay, I just say London time because then it's easier to have a reference, like a global time. So it's 10 p.m. London time, 6 p.m. Brazil time. In the US, I'm not sure because I have to see what state you are from, Ben. But anyway, you got the message, okay? So I wish you a great week, and I'll see you next Tuesday at 10 p.m. London time, okay? So see you guys. Thank you so much.